Hello, everyone. This is Colin Murphy from the Dassault Systems Benefits team. I'm pleased to welcome you to today's presentation, which is going to review the transition of the Exa 401k plan to the Dassault Systems 401k plan. With me today is Kendall Storch. He is our 401k advisor. He is going to go through the presentation today. At any point, if you have questions during the presentation, please feel free to type them into the question box on your GoToWebinar screen. In addition, we'll be recording this presentation, so both the slide deck as well as the recording of this presentation will be available to you. It'll be posted out on our benefits website, rewards.3ds.com. Again, if you'll remember from open enrollment, we did have a special section specifically for Exa employees. So we'll post this webinar and the slide deck in that Exa section of the rewards.3ds.com site. At this time, though, I'll turn it over to Kendall Storch, and we'll begin.
Great. Thanks, Colin. Appreciate it. Good afternoon to everybody. Thanks for taking the time to listen in on this conversation regarding the retirement plans. I'm going to move us to our agenda slide here so people can see what we're going to talk about today. But we've got a number of different bullets that we'll cover. First of all, just do a quick introduction of myself and sort of my role here. And I'll explain kind of how we work with Dassault and how we work with some of the Dassault employees. Next, we'll talk about the transition and how this will operate. We'll cover sort of the do's and the don'ts. We'll talk about the timeline associated with the transition. I'll do a quick comparison of what the Exa plan looks like compared to the DS plan, so we can see any sort of differences. I'll show everybody the investment options associated with the Dassault plan. I'm not going to get into too many details on the specifics of each of the different investments. I'll just kind of explain high level what there is to offer, and then we'll kind of summarize the presentation at the end. So those are essentially the different topics that we'll be covering. I'm hoping to do this in about 35 or 40 minutes, and then we'll field some questions that come in over the wire. So first of all, Arthur J. Gallagher, so that's the firm that I work for. Gallagher is a global employee benefits and consulting firm. I've got a series of different kind of bullets around Gallagher themselves and where they stand. But basically, our role is twofold here at Dassault. We work at a corporate level and we work at a participant level. So on the corporate end of things, we work very closely with sort of the executive team here to monitor the retirement plan. We meet on a regular basis to look at the various different investment offerings, to look at the design of the plan. We want to make sure that we keep the plan as competitive as possible. So those are some things that we're doing kind of behind the scenes. If you see funds being added to the plan, funds being deleted from the plan, changes to the plan design, all of that kind of stems from our retirement committee meetings and discussions. On a participant level, so the corporate stuff is kind of behind the scenes. The participant level stuff is front and center. So we do also act as a resource for the employees. So if you have questions about your retirement account, if you have questions about the markets, about your investment strategy, about retirement planning, about what's better, should I make Roth contributions or pre-tax contributions? All of those types of things can come to my firm and myself, as well as my coworker, Adam Maloro. Both of us work very closely with the Dassault employees, so we can be a resource for you as well if you have questions or concerns. This is a free service, and we're happy to set up time to speak with anybody. We'll be sharing our contact information at the end of this presentation if you're interested. So that's effectively my role. Also, as part of that, we tend to work with any sort of new incoming partners to Dassault. So merger partners coming in, we tend to be sort of the liaison around how the benefits work, at least with respect to the retirement plan. So that's essentially what we're going to cover here today. So what's happening with the Exa 401k? So essentially what's happening is the Exa plan is going to be merged into the Dassault plan. And this is going to take place on January 1st. So essentially, we'll be picking up everybody's account balance in the Exa plan and pouring that account balance into a new account that we've established under the Dassault plan. So with the plan merger, just like I said, everybody's balance is going to transfer over. If you have an outstanding loan, that loan will transfer over as well. All of this happens automatically. There's nothing you necessarily have to do. Come January 2nd, you'll be able to go online and go into the Fidelity Net Benefits app or onto their website, and you'll be able to see your Dassault account with the dollars inside of it. One thing that I will mention with the plan-to-plan transfer, it's like I said, it's a trust-to-trust transfer, so there's not an option to roll your money out of the Exa plan into an IRA account. The monies will all kind of come over to the Dassault plan. I mentioned a couple things around some of the timing here. So the plan will effectively kick off January 1st. You should be able to see your balance come January 2nd. As we'll see in a little bit, I'll show you kind of how the assets will transfer over. But one thing that you will need to do is once you can access your account, make contribution decisions. Actually, I think you may even be able to go into your account right now. You won't see the balance, but you can select your deferral rate. So if you want to contribute 5% of pay, 10% of pay, etc., we will need a new registration for that, so to speak. Whatever your current deferral rate is under the Exa plan, that's not going to carry over. So that's the one kind of manual piece. All the other components are effectively autopilot. Okay. So we've got some information here around, let's call it the enrollment process. So the last payroll in December will be the last contribution that will go into the Exa plan. And then starting with pay cycle of January 3rd, that will head to the Dassault plan. So as I was mentioning before, the assets will transfer over. We'll show you how they'll transition from fund to fund. You don't necessarily need to set new allocations. All those allocations will be mapped as well. The only thing that you do need to do is go into your new Dassault account and select your contribution rate. That we do need. All right. Where do you go to do that? Conveniently, for anybody who's participating in the Exa plan right now, the Dassault plan is also with Fidelity. So if you're familiar with Fidelity's website, mobile app tools, etc., you're going to use exactly the same things that you were using previously. So the website is netbenefits.com. If you already have an account with Fidelity, like I presume most of you do, you're going to use your existing username and password. When you log into your account, it will pull up any and all accounts associated with your social. So you should see a new option for the Dassault plan. You'll want to click on that, and you'll be able to go into that particular account. If you are new to Exa and you have not joined the retirement plan, or if you're not new to Exa and you just never got around to doing it and you don't have any other accounts at Fidelity, then you will need to go through the registration process, which I'll show you in a second, to set up a username and a password so that you can access your account. Okay. How would you do that? Once you go to netbenefits.com, this is kind of what you're going to see. There's a link in the upper right-hand corner where it says New User Registration. You would click on that, and that will take you through a little wizard to set up that username and password. Once you have that, you're off and running, and you can access your account and do whatever you need to do there. As I mentioned before, Fidelity has some great mobile capabilities, whether you're using a tablet or you're using a smartphone. You can download the Fidelity Net Benefit app onto your phone or tablet at the App Store, or if you have a Google device, you can download it from there as well. Hopefully, again, because the Exa plan is at Fidelity, hopefully you're familiar with this and you may be using some of this technology right now. It certainly makes life a whole lot easier. Okay. A couple other little points of interest, I guess you could say. So back to loans. If you do have a loan outstanding, again, there's nothing you need to do. This loan is going to transfer over, including the amortization schedule, the interest rate, any outstanding balance. So when that loan transitions over, again, you will continue just keep making payments on it just like you've been doing up until this point. So nothing you need to do there. Quick note though, if you are thinking of taking a loan this month, so in the month of December, because of the impending balance transfer, if you did want to take a loan, we're asking that people go to Fidelity's customer service center, and that's basically calling the customer service center and requesting a loan that way. Prior to December, you could request a loan online, but because we're getting short on time in terms of when the transfer is going to take place, if you need a loan this month, you'll want to call Fidelity and process that loan through the customer service center. All right. Vesting. I'll touch on this as well, and we'll look at this in a second when we do the comparison of the two plans. But basically, any time that you have with Exa will carry over towards the Dassault vesting schedule. So if you've worked for Exa for, say, 3 years, when you join the Dassault plan, it will look like you have 3 years of service kind of already under your belt. And that time will be applied again to Dassault's vesting schedule. Whatever match money that you've received under the Exa plan, that match money will be subject to Exa's vesting schedule, which has a different cycle than Dassault's vesting schedule. So only the Dassault vesting schedule will apply to match dollars from basically January 1st forward. Hopefully that's clear to everybody. All right, so in light of that, we'll take a quick look at some comparison information between the two different plans. In many ways, the plans are somewhat similar, but I'll point out some of the key differences. So at least with eligibility, both plans, you're immediately eligible right out of the gate. In terms of when you can join the plan, for Dassault, you can join as of the next available payroll. Under the Exa plan, you have to wait until the beginning of the month. How much you can put in under the Exa plan, you can put in up to 60% of pay, not to exceed the IRS limit. For next year, the IRS limit is going to be $19,000. If you're turning age 50, you get an extra $6,000 of catch-up dollars that you could put in. So $25,000 would be your max. Under the Dassault plan, you could put in up to 75% of pay. And again, those IRS limits would apply. I figure under both circumstances, that's probably plenty of room. I don't see too many people who are putting 60% or 75% of their pay directly into the 401k plan. But if you wanted to, you certainly could, up to those IRS limits. One difference that I think is probably notable, it didn't look like the Exa plan had the Roth feature available. So we do have that available under the Dassault plan. So now you'll have a choice. You can decide, do I want to contribute to the 401k on a pre-tax basis, but then pay the taxes in the future when I retire? Or do I want to contribute to the plan on an after-tax basis? So I pay the taxes now, and when I withdraw the money at retirement age, I pay no taxes. So the taxes or the withdrawals are income tax free. So just recognize you now have a choice. You can either make pre-tax or Roth contributions under the Dassault plan. With regard to the match, match formulas are a little different. Under the Exa plan, it was basically 75% up to the first $6,000. So there was a $6,000 cap on your matching contributions. Another way of phrasing that is you get 75 cents for every dollar that you put in up until the point at which you've received $6,000 of match money. Under the Dassault plan, the formula is at 50% up to 8%. So you get 50 cents for every dollar you put in all the way up to the first 8% of pay that you contribute, so there's not necessarily a hard dollar cap. With respect to the vesting, so the Exa plan had a 2-year vesting schedule. So after a full 2 years, you were 100% vested. Under the Dassault plan, it's a 4-year vesting schedule. Back to what I was saying before, that 2-year vesting schedule will still apply to any of the Exa match money that you receive. So that will stay under the 2-year vesting schedule. Any new match money that you receive from Dassault will be under a 4-year vesting schedule. But again, any time that you've put in under Exa will be credited towards that vesting schedule. So in my example before, if I had worked for Exa for 3 years, I would step into the Dassault plan being 75% vested in any match money right out of the gate. Once I get to my 4-year mark, I'm 100% vested. Talk a little bit about the loans. So both plans offer a loan feature. The Exa plan allowed for up to 2 loans outstanding at a time. The DS plan only allows for 1 loan. If you do happen to have 2 loans outstanding, that's fine. Those will be grandfathered over, but just going forward, you'd only be able to have 1 loan outstanding. Withdrawals, same. So age 59 and a half, you can begin pulling money out. There's a hardship feature. Both plans allow for rollovers. You can roll money in if you so choose. So just kind of down and dirty, those are the quick highlights, I guess you could say, of either the similarities or the differences between the 2 plans. Okay. I had mentioned as well around, how will the dollars transfer over? So we're going to map the assets. So this is where what I like to call the secret decoder ring comes into play. So essentially, if you have any money on the left-hand side of the spreadsheet, let's take the very first one, the Fidelity Fund. Come January 2nd, if you looked at your account under the DS plan, you will find whatever dollars that were in the Fidelity Fund transferred into the Fidelity Contra Fund commingled pool. All right. So that's how basically you read the chart. Whatever is on the left, follow the arrow. That would be the most similar option under the Dassault plan, and that's ultimately where you will find your dollars invested. The same thing will happen with future contributions. So if you set up your account where you've got 50% of any new deposits going into the Fidelity Fund and 50% of any new deposits going into the Disciplined Equity Fund, when you look at your account under the Dassault plan, you'll find 50-50 Fidelity Contra and Fidelity 500 index. So the mapping applies not only to existing dollars, but also to future allocations. Okay. So a quick look at some of the different investment options under the Dassault plan. Again, I'm not going to go into the details of kind of strategy and what all these are all about. I'll just kind of high level. This is what is there. But on the more conservative end of things, we have a couple of different kind of cash options. We have a money market fund and we have a stable value fund. Both of these, they don't go up or down in value. They stay $1 per share and they pay a little bit of interest. So it's similar to like a CD at the bank. We've got 3 different flavors of bonds. If you want a plain vanilla bond fund, we've got the Fidelity US Bond Index. If you're looking for inflation protected bonds, that's where PIMCO Real Return would come in. Then we have kind of a go anywhere bond fund, the Fidelity Strategic Income Fund. That would be a mix of US government bonds, corporate bonds, high yield bonds, foreign government bonds. It's a little bit of everything. Our target date suite of funds are T. Rowe Price target dates. I'll talk about those in a second, but those are also part of the mix. When you look at all of the U.S. equity funds or the domestic U.S. equity funds, they are here on this slide. So you can see we have fund in each box. If you want just pure index and you want to keep your costs nice and low, we have index funds right through the middle. If you're looking to try and outperform the market, you can do that with any of the funds either on the far left grid or far left column or the far right column. So these are actively managed funds that are trying to outpace the market. And then finally, on the international fronts, we have a few different flavors here as well. We have a Fidelity International Index, again, index strategy for developed countries. Templeton Foreign tends to look for more deeply discounted stocks abroad, so it's a value fund. We have an emerging markets fund, Oppenheimer Developing Markets. And then finally, the Vanguard International Explorer is a international small cap fund. So it's looking for small companies in primarily developed countries. So Europe, Canada, Japan, Australia, they're looking for small cap names there. So that's basically the universe of options. By and large, we found a very comparable option under the Dassault plan relative to kind of what was available under the Exa plan. So hopefully there's something there for everybody. Back to the target date strategies. So again, if you're the type of person where you say, you know what, I really don't want to try and build my own portfolio. Ideally, I'd like somebody to do this for me. That's where the target date funds come into play. Essentially, you pick the target date fund that corresponds with when you plan to retire. So if I was going to retire at, say, age 65, conveniently for me, I'll be 65 in the year 2035. I would pick the T. Rowe Price 2035 fund, and T. Rowe kind of takes it from there. They determine these are the different types of investments we're going to use. This is the percentage that we're going to put into each of those investments. And then as time goes on, as I get closer to the year 2035, they're going to rejigger the mix. So you end up with less money in stocks and more money in bonds and cash as you get older. So sort of the work of the portfolio management, T. Rowe Price will take that on. So summaries, just again, some key differences. So number one, we do have a difference in match formula. Remember, the match under the Dassault plan is up to 8% of pay. So if you, when you're plugging in your contribution rate, if you plug in some number under 8, recognize you're missing out on match money. So you want to try and do at a minimum that 8% so that you capture all the match money that's on the table. We do have a differential in expense. So these are just kind of straight average expenses between the universe of funds available under the Exa plan versus the universe of funds available under the DS plan. So we're roughly 16 basis points cheaper. So that should be a plus for people who are keeping an eye on cost. One other difference between the two plans, there is an administrative fee. So we do charge an annual fee of $85 to each participant in the plan. That's deducted quarterly. So it's about $21 per quarter. You'll see that as a line item on your statement. So just be aware of that. One other thing to be aware of is presently the managed account service, the Pass-W service, is in effect under the Exa plan. We don't have that turned on under the Dassault plan. So come January 1st, the managed account service will be discontinued. Again, as a quick summary here, again, we do have, when you look at the universe of investment options under the DS plan, we do have a combination of actively managed funds as well as index options. There's indexes in all the major asset classes, or you can branch out to actively managed funds if you're trying to beat the market. Again, those who have been using the Exa plan, you should be familiar with the website, or with the mobile access, with any of the tools or the calculators, and the investor centers as well. Those are available to you. So all of that is a constant between both plans, again, because both organizations use Fidelity. So just some other quick summary items. So take a look at the mapping, make sure you're familiar with how things will transfer over. If for whatever reason you decide you don't like the mapping, you can kind of use the secret decoder ring to transfer balances from funds that are in the Exa plan right now into different funds in the Exa plan that will map where you want the money to go. So I will scroll back here just to make my point, but let's say, for example, you have money in the Fidelity Fund, and you don't want it to go in the Fidelity Contra Fund. Instead, you want that money to go into the Wells Fargo Discovery Fund. You could transfer the balance out of the Fidelity Fund and put it into Fidelity Growth Strategies before December 31st. And then on January 2nd, when you look at your account, you'll see the money in Wells Fargo Discovery. Keep in mind, though, we have very little downtime with your access to the account. So if for whatever reason you want to adjust the mapping, you can always do it on January 2nd. All right. Okay, so a little bit of contact information. So again, Net Benefits is the website for Fidelity to access your account. We have the 800 number as well if you want to give them a call. This is my contact information. If you have questions or concerns, you can feel free to reach out to me, send me an email, leave me a message, and I'm happy to get back to you. Colin, who is on the phone, I have his contact information as well. If you have questions for him, that's how you would get in touch with him. And that, I believe, is my last slide. So I think I'm pretty close to being on target to my 35 minutes discussion. Colin, why don't we open it up for some questions here, or you can read some questions and we'll try and tackle them.
Great, thanks, Kendall. So just as a point of reminder for any of you that may have joined late, we are recording this session. So both the recording of this session as well as the slide deck itself, if you just wanted to look through the PowerPoint presentation, they will be available on the rewards.3ds.com site. That's the benefits website that we had shared with you during open enrollment for transitioning your health and welfare benefits to the Dassault Systems plan for January 1st. So again, on that rewards.3ds.com site, there is a special section specifically for Exa employees, and we'll post this presentation as well as the recording in that section. In terms of questions for you, Kendall, we'll start with this one. So now that there's going to be a Roth option in terms of contributions, can you contribute to both a traditional pre-tax 401k as well as to the Roth, or is it just one or the other?
You could do both at the same time. So if you wanted to, save 10% of pay, you could say, I'll put 5 in pre-tax, I'll do 5 Roth, 7 and 3, 3 and 7, 10 and 0, 0 and 10, however you want to split it up. The only thing that you can't do is, and this is sometimes cause for confusion. So I mentioned we have a maximum dollar amount of $19,000 that you can put in 2019. That $19,000 is an aggregate limit over both pre-tax and Roth. So you have $19,000 to work with. You can split it up any way you see fit. Sometimes people think, oh, I can do $19,000 pre-tax and another $19,000 on a Roth basis. That's not the case. So just one $19,000 max.
Okay. And then sort of a follow-up question to that. In terms of the company match, does the company match on both the pre-tax as well as the Roth 401k contributions?
Sure, yeah, they do.
How do those funds go in?
Exactly. So the match money will apply to both pre-tax as well as Roth contributions, so they get matched the same way. Sometimes people will ask, okay, if I make Roth contributions, does the match go into my account on an after-tax basis as well? The answer is no. So match money is always pre-tax. It's just your own money that you're putting in on a Roth basis that goes in after tax.
Right. So again, the company match is taking into account whether you've contributed pre-tax or Roth, but the company match itself will be going into your account pre-tax. That's right. And then the next question is about vesting, and this question was asking about cliff vesting, and I do want to clarify that it's a graded vesting, meaning we have a 4-year vesting schedule, but It's 25% after 1 year, 50% after 2 years, 3 years, 75%, and at 4-year anniversary, it's 100% vested. But with that, it is based on your hire date or your vesting date, which is your hire date in most cases. So again, 4 years from your original date of hire is when you're fully vested in those Dassault Systems contributions. Let's see. In terms of the company, or in terms of what is being matched, what compensation is included, and that's your base salary, any bonuses, commissions, or overtime. Those are, in essence, your eligible earnings within our 401k plan. This question is for somebody that has already gone into the system and elected their investment choices and presumably their contribution percentage. If they've already made their investment choices in the Dassault Systems plan, when the funds come over during the plan merge, will the funds go into the investment choices that they've already selected, or will they follow the existing Exa contribution allocations?
So when the funds transfer over, they're going to follow that spreadsheet that we looked at before, the secret decoder ring, as I described. So that's where the dollars will be deposited. If you've made changes to where you want future contributions to go, that will stay. So that if you update that, that won't be overwritten, so to speak, by the mapping.
Okay. And how often can you change your investment choices during the course of the year?
You can change them daily. So there's no limit on that.
Okay. Is there any, this question is about a specific fund, the T. Rowe Price target date funds. Are there fees associated with the T. Rowe Price funds?
So the only fee is the expense ratio, so the money management fee for the target dates. So across the board, all of the T. Rowe funds, the expense on them is 0.43%. or 43 basis points. That's what T. Rowe Price charges to run their target dates. So that's the only expense.
Okay. And the Exa plan just only had a pre-tax contribution selection in their plan currently, and they're transitioning to a Dassault Systems plan that allows both pre-tax and Roth contributions. Is there any way to roll over part of their Exa 401k funds into the Roth 401k?
Currently, there's not. So the pre-tax dollars would come over and show up in your Dassault account as pre-tax. Presently, we don't have an in-plan Roth conversion where you could elect to pay the taxes on the pre-tax dollars and turn them into Roth dollars. But that may be something that we look at in the future.
And similar to the changing your investment choices, how often can you change your payroll deductions?
Payroll deductions, I think you can change at any time. It becomes just a question of when you make the change, will it catch the next payroll cycle?
Right. Yeah, I'll help with that. So in essence, you can make your change to contributions at any time. What we guarantee is that you'll see that change in one of the next 2 pay periods, meaning it's really just a matter of the timing of when you made that change versus when payroll is processing for the next pay date. So again, in essence, you can change your contributions and see that impact in payroll 26 times per year. You get paid 26 times per year, so that's how often you can make changes to your contributions. And are there any penalties for moving in and out of any of the funds on the DS plan?
No, they're not.
Okay. And, okay. This one is about taking any type of in-service distributions. Does the DS plan allow for in-service distributions, i.e. rollover of vested funds into a rollover IRA?
Yeah, so the DS plan does allow for in-service distributions in a few different ways. So if you have rollover money, so money that you rolled into the Exa plan and is coded as rollover dollars, those dollars will maintain that coding when they come over to the DS plan. So rollover money is always available for in-service withdrawal, meaning you can take that money back out again, even if you're still actively employed. So that would be an option. Again, if you have rollover dollars, keep in mind that the money that's coming from the Exa plan, that is not being coded as rollover. So if you have employee deferrals, if you have match money, those dollars will remain with their existing coding. They're not going to say rollover. If you had an IRA account, if you had a rollover account from someplace that you rolled into the Exa plan, those dollars will be coded as rollover and will maintain that coding when it comes to the DS plan. You'd be able to roll that money out. Other in-service withdrawal options, once you get to age 59 and a half, you have the option to begin withdrawing money from the plan, even if you're still actively employed. Colin, are there any others?
Yes. In terms of rollover options, I know there's the 24-month vested, but generically, I think you've covered them.
Okay.
In terms of we're having this presentation today. The Exa participants will start potentially having deductions taken from their paychecks for the DS 401k plan beginning with the January 3rd payroll. Just to clarify for everyone, we're doing this presentation now, and you have access to the Dassault Systems 401k plan already. If you log into the Fidelity system now, you'll see a Dassault Systems account. The question was whether or not they should wait until their funds are rolled over, or should they be making elections now? What we're encouraging people to do, certainly if you want to have your 401k deductions either continue or start from January 1st onward, please make sure that you're making these elections sooner rather than later, so that information gets fed to our payroll team, and those deductions can begin with that January 3rd payroll. So please do not wait until after January 1st if you do want that contribution to come out of that first payroll in January. Let me see. Are there any income limits for contributing to the Roth 401k option?
No, there are not. So that's one of the benefits of Roth 401k versus Roth IRA. So where the Roth IRA does have income phase-outs or income limits, the 401k does not.
And I suppose just to follow up on that, again, when we're talking about Roth, that's the after-tax dollars that you're contributing. And I know that this question comes up all the time as people do confuse that Roth 401k contribution option with a Roth IRA. So those are two completely different things. You have the potential, again, based on your how much you earn, to be able to contribute to a Roth IRA. Anyone that is part of the Dassault Systems plan has the ability to contribute Roth or after-tax dollars to their 401k plan, and at which point, if you're contributing Roth after-tax dollars to the plan, when you pull those funds out in retirement, you wouldn't be paying taxes on them at that time. So another question came in, can I contribute 16% for half the year to get a full company match? So Kendall, I don't mind if I'll take this one.
Yeah, sure.
Obviously, I'm assuming in the case of this question that you're planning to work for Dassault Systems for the full calendar year. You're just contributing for half of the year. And the reality is on a per pay period basis, the company is making a contribution to a maximum of 4%, or in essence, if you're contributing at least 8% from a pay period, the company is matching 4% for any pay period that you're making those contributions. That said, if you max out early in the year or you only contribute for part of the year, Dassault Systems does at the end of the year do what's called a true-up process, and that is we look at what you've earned for the year, what you've contributed to the plan, what the company has contributed to the plan year to date, and what the company should have contributed based on what you earned, what you contributed, and what the company should have put in for you. So that true-up takes place technically after year end. So for the 2019 plan year in Q1 of 2020, we do that calculation, and any additional contributions that need to be made are added to your account at that time. So in short, if you're contributing for half the year, that half of the year that you're contributing, you'll receive company match. The rest of the year, you won't receive company match until that true-up process catches up any additional employer match that is required. Let's see. Next question is about any type of accounting delay between the time that you're paid and the contribution to your plan. Typically, the SO systems, you're getting paid on a Thursday, and your funds are added to your account typically by Friday or Monday. There is a process in terms of funding that goes through with Fidelity in terms of approving files and approving the compensation or the funding. So that does typically result in your funds hitting your account either on Friday or Monday. But that's the typical at most delay between that Thursday and when you see the funds in your account. Let's see if I have any other questions here. We have an employee that was saying that they're investing in an aggressive blue chip account today, and they're trying to see is there a comparable account that they can contribute on the Dassault Systems mapping.
Okay. So I'm guessing if they're using the Fidelity blue chip, which would make sense, that the most comparable fund to that under the Dassault plan would be the Fidelity Contra Fund, which I believe is where the dollars are being mapped to.
What is the deadline to change contributions to 8%, or in essence to sign up for the Dassault Systems plan so that they're effective January 3rd? Let me just take a quick look at the calendar, and I would make sure that you're making your elections by no later than December 26th. There will be a feedback file that comes over from Fidelity to our payroll team on either the 27th or the 28th. So you'd want to make sure that you've made your contributions by the December 26th, made your elections by December 26th at the latest. Again, I would strongly recommend that you go in sooner rather than later so that there are no issues with your setup, your deduction from that first paycheck. Okay. I think that covered all the questions that we have, or I should say, here's one more. Are the net benefits credentials for login the same as for Fidelity? And again, Fidelity and netbenefits.com are the same website, I should say, or the same company. So anybody that is participating in the Exa 401k plan today, you should be able to log in just like you potentially log in today. And you'll see an Exa 401k plan sitting out there. You'll see a Dassault Systems account sitting out there as well. So you would just click on the Dassault Systems account and set up your plan from January 1st going forward. I think that's all the questions that we have so far. So if anybody does have any additional questions, again, Kendall, you've got your contact information up on the screen. Employees are welcome to contact Kendall at any time, not only for just information about how to set up your account with Dassault Systems for January 1st going forward, but also, again, just for investment advice, helping you figure out what are your retirement goals, how do you get there, what investment choices make the most sense. Again, please feel free to contact Kendall anytime. He does this for for the Dassault Systems employees today. Again, you can contact him at any time. We have employees that typically meet with you, once or twice a year, just to try and have a check-in, make sure that they're on track for whatever their retirement goals are, that the investment choices still make sense for where they are in terms of how close they are to retirement, et cetera. So we strongly encourage employees to take advantage of that service. I'm just going to ask one more question before I let you go, Kendall. Okay. One last question just regarding the Roth 401k. And can you just clarify again how the Roth 401k plan works and how it's taxed?
Sure. So with your traditional pre-tax when you put money into the 401k plan, you don't pay any income tax on that money, so it's pre-tax. Doesn't mean that you get to skate 100% on the income taxes. Eventually, you have to settle up. So with the pre-tax contribution, you don't pay any taxes now. You pay all the taxes in the future when you get to retirement age and you start drawing the money out. With Roth, you pay the taxes today, and then in the future, when you start pulling the money out, there are no income taxes due. So the key difference between the two is the size of the pool of dollars that you end up paying taxes on. So under the pre-tax, you will pay income tax not only on the money that you put in, and so the principal, I guess you could say, but you'll also pay income tax on any of the earnings. So if you put in $100,000 and it's worth $500 by the time you retire, you owe the government income taxes on $500,000. With Roth, you pay income tax on the principal, but the earnings are income tax free. If I put $100,000 into the 401k on a Roth basis, I'll pay income taxes on that $100,000, but the $400,000 of growth are tax free. That's the big differential between the two. So typically Roth tends to favor younger employees. If you have more time to let the money grow, that would indicate the odds of you having more earnings in your account would go up. You know, if you're 30, 35 years old and you got 30 plus years before you're going to retire, you know, a good chunk of your portfolio should be earnings over that time. And it's the earnings with Roth that are tax-free.
Okay. And that actually triggered a few more questions, and I know we still have some time. Is the $19,000 limit on the Roth 401k is that like there is the pre-tax $19,000? Again, it's one total limit. So again, you can contribute a total of $19,000 to your to a 401k plan in 2019. So whether you do half of that pre-tax and half of that Roth dollars, or you do all of it pre-tax or all of it Roth, it doesn't matter. The cap is going to be $19,000.
Right.
So you get to choose whether it's pre-tax or Roth. And again, the employer match is always contributed pre-tax. So if you're choosing Roth 401k as your contribution method for the money you're putting in, you're paying taxes on those contributions when you put the funds in. The company match will go in as pre-tax dollars, employer match, and you would pay tax on those company contributions when you pull them out in retirement.
Right.
And can I withdraw Roth contributions after 59 and a half?
Yes. So once you get to 59 and a half, you can basically take out anything. Roth, pre-tax, vested match money, you could take anything out. The advantage of the 59 and a half, as well as that, you know, normally if you cash out 401k dollars prior to age 59 and a half, you pay a 10% penalty. Once you're past age 59 and a half, there is no 10% penalty. So the 59 and a half in-service withdrawal gives you access to the dollars, even if you're still actively employed, and no excise tax of 10%.
And this will be our last question for the day. How do I make sure I'm set up for catch-up contributions if I'm age 50 or older? And I can take that too, Kendall.
Sure.
So again, when you're logging into the Fidelity account, you're choosing a percentage of your pay to contribute to the 401k plan. Again, whether it's pre-tax or Roth dollars. You can set that contribution percentage up to, again, with our plan, up to 75% of your pay going into the 401k plan. And that will continue to deduct until you reach your limit. So if you are under age 50, that will continue until you've contributed $50,000, or I'm sorry, $19,000. If you are age 50 or older, or you're going to turn 50 in 2019, up to $25,000, the contributions will just continue until you hit that limit. So you don't have to do anything other than set your contribution percentage to a percentage high enough to reach that IRS limit for the calendar year. So at this time, I do want to just remind everyone that this presentation, the recording, the slide deck, etc., will be posted out on the rewards.3ds.com site. I want to thank you, Kendall, for your time today. If there were any questions that I missed, please feel free to reach out to me or feel free to reach out to Kendall with any questions that you may have. We're happy to help you. We do, again, encourage you to set up your plan now so that you are prepared for that first payroll of January, which is getting paid on January 3rd. So please log into your Fidelity account, make sure that you have access, that you can log in, that you can set your contribution percentage, choose your investment choices, etc. Please feel free to reach out to Kendall if you'd like any assistance with what those investment choices are and which ones might be better for you to reach your retirement goals. You can do any of that at any time. But again, we're encouraging you to do that sooner rather than later so that you're not coming down to the wire and you have time to figure out what you want to do for the next calendar year. Again, you can make changes at any time, but we are encouraging you to get started now so that you're prepared for the first of the year. But at this time, thank you again, Kendall, and thank you all for your attendance today. If you do have questions, please reach out to Kendall or I at any point in the future, and we're happy to help you.
Thanks, Colin.